You see, let's run back through it again real quick. We got Baraka,
Ross Baraka, the mayor with the pro wrestler name,
right? We got some.
I'm coming for you at SummerSlam.
All right, I want to make an observation right out the rip. You can go to YouTube and find every single one of these videos that's available on AP without all the blurry imagery. So,
and we should probably quickly set the scene in case anybody doesn't know what we're watching. Yesterday, the idiot mayor of Newark and 2 idiot Democrat members of Congress decided to show up at an ICE detention facility in, I don't know if it's actually in Newark or in suburban Newark, but it doesn't matter. And the reason they went there was to try and get arrested. How do we know that? Because if they would have just called up the ICE office and asked for a tour, they would have been given a tour. Instead, they just showed up and started raising hell and screaming at people and running into things. And at one point, the 2 Democrat members of Congress, after Mayor Baraka had already been arrested and detained, did some kind of weird Fort Apache thing and went and occupied a guard shack and said they weren't going to leave until they got a tour. And finally, the ICE guys were like, well, we just want our guard shack back. So if we walk you through the place, will you freaking leave? And that's what wound up actually happening. But I think they did instigate some further physical violence during the time when they were receiving their tour. And if there is a moral to this story, the moral is the only constituents these people care about are the wife-beating, human-smuggling, illegal alien gang. That's the message they've been trying to send for several months now, ever since Trump took office, and I think they're doing a delightful job of sending it.
All right, I got questions. So many questions. Did Homie plan this and notify the press to be there and stuff, or did he load up a bus full of press and ride over there?
This is by every definition a publicity stunt,
right?
Because they have lost all the arguments. The voters have soundly rejected their position on this issue. They know they can't win on the playing field of ideas, so they have really nothing left except performative histrionics, and they have dialed up the crazy knob so far that the only kind of performative histrionics they have left are attempting to get arrested, and that's what this was. This was 3 or 4 people trying to get arrested so that they could go viral and use it for fundraising, and we know how politics works. Everything is about getting viral clips you can use for fundraising, and that's what we're witnessing.
Here's my question. Is there any chance that this could be viewed as a form of insurrection by actual Congress people?
Yes. If we actually care about the meaning of that word, it absolutely could.
Well, that's an interesting angle because, let's just think on that for a minute. I kind of need some little light, frilly music to throw in here. So do, we sit around thinking.
And we may want to recall also, as long as we are juxtaposing things with other things, there were a lot of political prisoners taken at the Capitol on January 6th, including some political prisoners who weren't even within 100 miles of the Capitol on January 6th, and they got arrested and imprisoned anyway for something called seditious conspiracy. And during the time that they were being incarcerated, many Republican members of Congress attempted to go to the detention facility, much like these people, and see how the prisoners were doing, the prisoners in that case happened to have been American citizens who were arrested on impossibly flimsy charges, but these same Democrats mocked them for it and tried to make it impossible for them to do it. But when they want to show up and check on their favorite people in the world, which is, wife-beating, drug-dealing, human-smuggling MS-13 gang members, then they are on a mission from God, and they have the moral high ground, and nobody is allowed to say anything. And isn't that fun?
You reckon they've ever seen morality or high ground?
I think most of the terms they use, they couldn't define if they tried.
Right.
Especially,
I figure they probably saw a little bit of high ground when they were flying out of DC, and maybe a little bit of morality when they were looking out the window down on the flyover state.
And Mayor Baraka even makes up his own words, like destituteness. First time I ever heard that word. Maybe he's just more educated than I am, and that really is a word, and I'm just not aware of it.
All right. What is that? What is that I saw? Hold on. Was that assault? I'll watch the red.
I think I saw that. I think I saw that large busted woman throw an elbow.
Push another elbow.
Look at that.
Assaults of an officer. Oh no.
That was a back elbow and then a forearm shiver if we're using wrestling terms.
There you go. I just got to say, man, taser.
Yes, taser, bro, taser right now.
So we had a mayor, 3 congresspeople.
I will pull up the congressmen's names for you right here momentarily.
Super. That would be great. And it's all performative. It has to be. They went up there specifically to try to get arrested doing something that they felt would virtue signal above and beyond the orange man bad trope. And I saw one of the greatest freaking takes on this, and I can't remember which news rag it was that said it, but they presented this as Trump's ICE patrol were shaking down they're the dissidents against Trump. They were coming for his political opposition, and that's the whole purpose of all of this. It wasn't that they showed up uninvited at a facility with no right to be there and demanded entry. In fact, entered after the demand wasn't met. They just walked in, as I understand it. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Yeah, they were doing a First Amendment audit.
So the big fat woman who we just saw throw in forearm shivers and back elbows, her name is LaMonica McIver, Democrat of New Jersey. And she said today on CNN that she did not body slam anyone, and if someone produces footage to that effect, it is doctored AI false footage, damn it. So which presumably she's referring to the footage we just saw.
Please go AI us up some footage of her body slamming ICE agents. That would be awesome.
So
great.
The hostess, Dana Bash, here's the question that she gets posed to her. I want to go back to some of the footage we were looking at, and I want our viewers to see that you are the woman in the red blazer. As we show them, DHS says that obviously that there was chaos, that maybe you were trespassing. You can talk about that, but DHS also says, in their words, you were body slamming an ICE officer. Is that what we're looking at? Is that what happened? And here is LaMonica's response, quote, absolutely no. I mean, I honestly do not know how to body slam anyone. There's no video that supports me body slamming anyone. We, as Congressman Bonnie Watson Coleman said, we were simply there to do our job, there for an oversight visit. What you watch when you're watching in the video, and we don't have all of the body cam, and we hope that all of the body cam is released. It was a very tense situation. It unfortunately did not have to be like that. They created the confrontation. They created that chaos, and then ultimately went to arrest the mayor of the largest city in New Jersey, who is my mayor and my constituent, and it was very difficult to watch that happen, but absolutely, I did not body slam anyone, end quote. How many times, I'm glad I started making wrestling references, because how many times have you heard a sitting member of Congress deny body slamming someone that many times? There's usually not a lot of body slams involved in being in Congress, but you know, who knows? We get closer to idiocracy every day, so maybe that's just the world we need to get used to. And I've got the quote from, what's her name? Bonnie Watson Coleman, also Democrat, also New Jersey. Here is her quote. Yeah. How ridiculous does that sound about the body slamming? There are 200-pound guys. They've got about 35 pounds worth of stuff around them, including a gun on their arms. I can tell you what I think about what they're saying. The President of the United States opens his mouth every day and lies. He can't breathe without lying. He's given permission to his cabinet and those who work for him to lie, and she's lying too. So the Democrat Party motto, don't believe your lying eyes. If you see a thing that looks bad for us, it's just not true. So go ahead and ignore it. And also, if you're in the middle of an answer and you don't like how it's going for you, just pivot to saying bad things about Trump. And then Frederica Whitfield, the CNN host, says, quote, the DHS spokesperson I mentioned who was on the air earlier is saying that the videotape, the body cam video that would be released later, would show the violent nature of the mayor and others body slamming. And Watson Coleman replies, no, if there's any such kind of footage like that, it is footage that is manufactured for this purpose. Because I said before, and I'll say it again, they are lying, end quote. So even though I'm on video doing the bad thing, from multiple angles and multiple sources, it's just not true. Don't believe your lying eyes. I think this whole panel really was designed, I think, for Piers Morgan to try and get her to say the word on the air so that these two black guys could just convulse in terror and anger. And you want to talk about performative outrage? We're about to see some heaping helpings of it right here.
You wouldn't happen to be willing to read some stuff directly into a statement that was never actually said, would you, Pierce? Not you. Say it ain't so.
Yeah, and he didn't even address the substance of what she had just said, which I don't have any problem with. People should be allowed to have preferences, including racial preferences. People of other races are allowed to have racial affinities and not be called race. It's only one racial group that is not allowed to express any sort of in-group affinity, and that's outrageous and wrong, and we should be able to say it's outrageous and wrong.
Yeah, freedom of speech comes with consequences. You have a freedom of speech and a freedom to, accept those consequences.
Yes, freedom of speech doesn't only apply to fashionable things that we like.
In fact, the only reason you need to protect speech is for unpopular speech.
Exactly right. That is why free speech protections exist. It is for the people with the worst, most outrageous, most abhorrent, most indefensible views. If you're not willing to stand up for that guy's right to speak his mind in the way he sees fit, then do not call yourself a free speech believer, because you are not one. Oh, look at how big his eyes are already. He cannot believe that he is hearing this white lady say these words, and she hasn't even said anything objectionable yet, and he's already quaking with rage.
Hold on, look at this lineup. She looks like she wished she had the balls to do that. She looks like, I hope you have the balls to deal with my $1 million lawyer that I got. This guy just realized the pendulum has turned. This cat over here is wondering why he's even here at all. He thought he had a grip on this conversation, and it just ran away from him. And I don't know what has going through
Mark Lamont Hill, the guy in the middle, he is just planning his performative tantrum at this point. It's really, I think, a fascinating window into people's souls who podcast and broadcast from their own homes with, their various professional accoutrements behind them, or whatever they choose to put back there that is the window into their mind that they want the world to see. Like Tony Fauci, for example, had an entire shelf of Tony Fauci prayer candles behind him when he used to do his interviews during the pandemic, which, very subtle, very modest, very, very self-effacing man, that Tony Fauci. And he had the prayer candles right next to his copies of his memoir, which was, great look, Tony. Outstanding look. Also, Jim Acosta, disgraced former CNN fake news performance artist, his podcast backdrop, because he's reduced to being a Substack guy now and interviewing, the worst kind of interview subjects you could possibly get. People like Sean Penn, Neil Young, just washed up idiot celebrities. He's got like a George Washington picture and an Abraham Lincoln picture behind him, because Jim Acosta is a true blue American, damn it, big old patriot. That's the message he wants to send. And he wears smart guy glasses now, so I guess we're supposed to have a more expansive view of his intellect now that he's been fired from CNN, which, if you can be fired from CNN, that takes some doing. We've never lynched you.
I've never lynched anyone in my life.
And to the best of my knowledge, I've never lynched anyone either.
Do you know anyone who has lynched someone, by chance?
I don't think anyone has been lynched in this country during either of our lifetimes or the lifetimes of our parents. And yet, a guy can say a thing like that and have it go unchallenged, as if this blonde lady saying these things is somehow tantamount to lynching this man's ancestors. God, the amount of blood libel that goes on from these race hucksters is just completely astounding sometimes.
It's amazing, man. Like, they take the least little controversy and make it immediately about their ancestors. This isn't a case of ancestor worship. I don't know what it is. I mean, because none of the people you're trying to get down on because of all of this were alive when any of this took place. And the people who are trying to get down on you for it were also not alive. So this is not a defense. This is a non-defense. This is simply saying something that is controversial to try to shake up the panel to make it get digress anywhere else.
Yes, and if you're talking to a random white person in America, there is just as big a chance, if not a bigger one, that their ancestors first arrived in this country during the second half of the 19th century, long after any of that stuff was a thing anymore. So, but the blood libel somehow still applies. Oh, you used to lynch us, goddammit. This idiotic mental midget, Mark Lamont Hill. Blood libel against white people is like his entire shtick, because he goes, you see how quickly he goes right to it, because he doesn't want to try and make an actual argument. He doesn't want to try and explicate why she's actually wrong, because he's not smart enough to do that. So he just opens up the race huckster hymnal and starts singing from the first page he gets to.
So, kid, between me and you, can we both agree that at least on its surface, she's wrong? I think she is.
No, she's not wrong about the first thing. She's wrong about things she says after that. I don't think she was wrong about the first thing she said, just about in-group affinity.
I'm talking about what the actual event that brought her to this position, right? If I have to, I'll go dig up the original video, but she was being abrasive and obnoxious. And while that's not illegal, it's not right.
And I also think she is just as guilty as of being performative as the other people are, because there's no valid intellectual reason why you need to hurl racial slurs at anybody. Just make your argument. If you're hurling racial slurs, it's just because you want to offend and outrage and get more attention on yourself.
It is for reaction and reaction only. I don't see any other purpose to do it.
Yep, because it's the quickest way to get internet famous. Well, aside from cutting your balls off. Well, it depends on what the definition of is. And it has to be said, even though he gets mocked for that so much, he was not making an invalid point when he said that, because the question he was asked very inartfully, because he was asked, is there a sexual relationship between you and Miss Lewinsky? And he quite reasonably replied, well, is means right now, so no. You didn't ask me if there used to be. So be more precise with your questions if you don't want answers like that, is the moral of that story. But if he wasn't autistic, it would be cool. Is that your point, Mark? What autistic? Isn't it wrong to call anybody that word, Mark? If that word is as unspeakable as you want to pretend it is, isn't it wrong to call anyone that word? Why does it make it worse if it's a 5-year-old black autistic child? And, you know, if we're being technical, the child looked way the hell closer to 10, and we have no idea if he's autistic or not. And why is a Somalian child sex offender sitting in a park with a camera anyway? I think ultimately the fact that Shiloh Hendricks has started a GoFundMe and there's, I don't know, upwards of $1 million in it now, I think more than anything, it is a reaction, it is a manifestation of people's outrage about the Austin Metcalf case, where a kid got stabbed in the heart and the murderer is being portrayed as the victim, and he got a brand new house and car out of the deal. A lot of people are really bothered by that. They know they can't say why they're bothered by it because, of course, they will be canceled and lose their jobs and their homes and their livelihoods, because that's what happens in these cases always. So the best way they have to fight back is by sending this woman a few bucks. Not because they approve necessarily of what she said, but just to illustrate the outrageousness of the way these things always go. Because is it really offensive, the way she spoke to the kid? Yes, of course. Obviously it is. But does that warrant having her life ruined, receiving death threats, having to go into hiding, having to leave town? No. It doesn't. People want her kids to be taken away? I mean, are you kidding me? Because she said a word.
No, that's been the whole issue for the past, 15 years, is the weaponization of words against the populace itself. The population itself is utilizing its own psyop, using language to incriminate everyone with no criminal laws being passed. Everybody gets the same treatment unless you're on the other side, right? If you're on the left and you say some really outlandish stuff, it gets buried. If you're on the right and you say something slightly racy, suddenly they're all over you. You're everywhere. Yeah,
and the woke rage mob is coming after you, and your life is going to be ruined, and nothing will ever be the same for you again. And they're gonna swat your house. They're gonna drive you out of town. They're gonna get your kids taken away. Every single bad thing they can do to you, simply for uttering a 2-syllable word, they will do. And they think they are totally morally in the right for doing it. They think saying a certain word is actually the equivalent of violent physical acts or criminal acts. They really think that. They even think saying a certain word is justifiable cause for a person to be harmed or killed. And that's madness.
Right. I refuse to live in a world where Charlie Manson was right. No matter how much these weird race hucksters want us to live in that world, I won't do it. I judge people on their merit and their character and nothing else.
And they really, really do want us to live in that world quite desperately.
Sometimes on their shoes, but then again, I'm a weirdo. But yeah, no, this is not balkanization. This isn't a normal thing that's happening in the U.S. This looks more like a manipulation or a psyop than it does any natural or native type of balkanization that could have taken place, especially in just like the last 6-8 years.
Yes, and most importantly, it keeps us from talking about real thing, because it turns us into the proverbial kitten chasing the laser pointer, because fake racism is sometimes the only thing we want to talk about. Sometimes it's the only thing people on both sides want to talk about because they think it is an easy way to sound morally virtuous. There's a lot of things about Piers Morgan that really annoy me, especially when he tries to have insights into American society and culture that he simply does not have. But if there is anything he's good at making compelling television. You know, putting panels together who are likely to blow up in noxious outrage at one another in a 50 megaton nuclear bomb of hatred. And look at Mark Lamont Hill. He's just getting ready to blow, man. You can see the steam coming out of his ears already.
He's mad. He's mad that he was specifically brought on this program so he could freak out real good. And every time he's tried to work up a good head of steam, Mr. Fresh and Fit over here just cats him.
Well, I think he's unaccustomed to being on a panel without any of his own fellow travelers on it. So he's not getting the reflexive agreement and affirmation that he is accustomed normally to getting, and it's obviously upsetting him. I know the girl who's
running all over.
The blonde girl looks like she just wants another crack at this so she can run her mouth some more, and the other girl just looks completely bewildered, like she wants the whole thing to end.
I do not.
And look at Mark Lamont Hill. That steam is still building. He's just waiting to blow his top. Oh, it's so great when he starts really he starts gyrating with rage so hard it actually shakes his camera like there's an earthquake happening in his house. It's freaking great.
And it's just him pitching a 4-year-old fit. Let's do it.
Yes.
So he's going to establish his foundation on the offensiveness of a given word. Then he's going to say the word, and he can do that because he's black, but they mute it.
Yeah, but here comes the genius of Piers Morgan. I mean, genius in the Jerry Springer kind of sense. He knows this segment is about to end, and he hasn't gotten the explosion of unvarnished rage that he's trying to get. So he's going to jump back into the blonde lady and try and bait her into saying the word, and she's not even going to say it, but it still is going to result in Mark Lamont Hill having the explosion of outrage that he was looking for.
Absolutely, I can see it building. Hold on, wait. We're cherry pick parties.
God, what I didn't hear that the first time I watched it. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard a grown man say. So, a Sudanese American is not an African American in the same sense that Elon Musk is an African American. Excuse me? Like how?
Dude, I got nothing.
Elon Musk is more... Dude, Elon Musk is more African-American than you are because he was actually born in Africa. You were not. What the hell words are coming out of your face hole right now, you stupid, stupid man?
I totally agree. I'm going to go to Lily Gadd.
He's so hung up on the 5-year-old black autistic thing. Like, he thinks those adjectives bolster his point of view somehow, and they just make him sound like a dumbass.
He's so caught up on his own linguistic.
And
he's so caught up on his.
Not to mention the fact that, worst of all, this man is drawing a direct moral equivalence between saying a word and stabbing a person fatally in the heart. He just did that.
So hold on, I want to back up and get a grip on part of this. He's also saying that the concept behind a Black Power movement is substantively different than a white power movement. And I do not agree with that on its surface, but when you get down to the brass tacks of the things that have occurred in history associated with the two concepts, there is a difference. I mean, there's a bona fide history in one of these sectors. There's no history to associate with the other.
Except perhaps with the Black Panthers, the worst of the Black Panthers back in the 60s and 70s, and the worst excesses of BLM at the start of this decade.
And people would say something about bad apples on that particular tree.
Of course, yeah, they would.
Whatever. Okay, sure, whatever. Bad apples in the other tree too, but I say we kind of both want to be Americans. We can do this, right?
That gets my vote.
Bro,
not even the saying of the word, just the mere idea of the word being said sends him into a spasmodic rage.
It's like he loaded him up like a muzzle loader and pulled the trigger, bro. He was like, "Funk, go ahead and say it." Funk.
Yeah, and he claims to have been harmed by the saying of the word when the word was never even uttered.
Actually, that's how he is the only one here that has actually said that word out loud on this podcast that I'm aware of.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, hypocrite? Wait, I don't own a hippo.
You know what else I dislike about Piers Morgan? He thinks Americans are not allowed to have opinions about cricket, and fuck him. He gets almost as upset as Mark Lamont Hill just did whenever an American tries to have an opinion about cricket. It sends him completely apoplectic, and it makes me want to go on his show and give him a cricket lecture.
Hold on. You asked for an organic introduction of the term smarmalade in here. This right here. This is smarmalade.
Yep.
Right
that
there.
is exactly that is the dictionary definition of smarmalade right there. You are correct, my friend.
Smarmalade.
But do you want to know what the central futility is of this whole contrived argument that he's trying to promote here? You've got the baseball fan saying cricket is too complicated. You've got the cricket fan saying baseball is too complicated. Neither game is any more or less complicated than the other, and they have far, far more in common with each other than either side is willing to admit or to understand. And I wouldn't have understood that either until a couple years ago. But they are about 90% the same game when you get right down to it. I know that makes people recoil. They don't want to admit it. But it's a game where you hit a ball with a bat and you run and you score runs. That's 90% the same. The biggest difference between cricket and baseball is cricket has no foul territory. If you eliminate second base and third base and foul territory, it's the same game. I'm sorry. There is not that much disagreement as Piers Morgan wants there to be. It really is just ignorance bumping up against ignorance, because anybody who likes and appreciates baseball with investing the requisite amount of effort should be just as able to like and appreciate cricket. There's nothing mutually exclusive. You can like both. I like both. Sometimes I watch both in the same day. I'm still here. No problems. I mean, you can like both things. You don't have to like one or the other, just like you don't have to choose between our gridiron football and their association football. You can like both things. There's something to like in all sports. Well, except curling, but you get the point. Is that Lizzo?
Actually, I don't think it is. I'm not sure, but we're gonna let this kick out while we wait for somebody to jump in and hate both of us.
Or is it Lizzo's skinny younger sister?